Hey, thanks for joining today for this really exciting seminar. I get to talk about my favorite topic. It's free quality leads and applying the local SEO ranking factor. As many of you know, I've been in the basement waterproofing space for over 25 years, largely in the lead generation space. And this space to me is by far the most interesting one, not only because it's free, but because it drives so many leads and it drives so much business to your business. And a lot of people don't really know what to do or how to make this work for them. It's also an area that I've seen a lot of agencies sort of take advantage of business owners because they will sell leads and they largely kind of hijack your Google My Business profile, which Google's now calling, get the terminology out of the way, Google Business Profile. It used to be called Google My Business. So they kind of hijack and put their call tracking number in there. And then when you get the calls, you're like, cool, hey, I'm getting leads, I'll pay for these. My opinion is this is your space. This is like your website. This is your property. So you should own this. I sometimes wonder if agencies are really doing all that they can do to drive these free leads to their clients. So this is an area that we love to hang out in. It certainly provides a great return on investment. So I won't go too far into sharing all my notes. Some of the things we're going to cover are what drives the rank to get, like, how do we make this thing go higher? And then different changes and trends that are happening with Google, the Google algorithm, especially with local. I want to give you a little tool to spy on your competitors. It's a Chrome extension. And then I'm going to cover the 4 most important items for higher local ranking. And I'm going to talk about customer reviews because it's not just the number of reviews, but it's actually the words that your customer is typing in there can influence your rankings and a whole lot more stuff. So why is local SEO so important? Hey, all clicks are free. Can't argue with that. I've spent a small fortune on advertising. I used to spend $5,000 a month for 9 or 10 months out of the year on mailers, dropping a mailer. Gosh, I used to run infomercials on HGTV. Back in the day, telemarketing, canvassing. I'm dating myself. Anyone's ever heard of the Yellow Pages? On and on. You name it, I've probably done it. And here's an area that all these free leads come in. And, you're always looking at these reports and trying to figure out your return on investment. Well, free is a pretty good return on investment. When you compare that to Google Ads in our world, at Rainmaker, our clients spend a lot of money on Google Ads. From a contractor standpoint, we're no doubt dealing with the bigger contractors, but they're spending, easily $5,000 a month on Google Ads. And then it's no secret that people trust SEO more than they trust ads, because ads, it's not 100%, throw a bunch of money at it, but if you have a lot of money to throw at Google Ads, you can certainly influence your ranking. Where SEO, you have to kind of earn that trust with Google to get where your rankings are. In our data, Google Analytics, I'm going to show you some stuff, some really cool stuff, and I'm going to show you how many calls and traffic can come in through all these local SEO categories. So in light of that, in light of all the distractions we get, in how our brains are kind of driven to distraction, if you could kind of cut that stuff off for a little bit, 30, 40 minutes, we'll dive into these topics. And I really think you're going to take away some great information here. It's going to affect your business. Real quick, in case you don't know who I am, I've been the owner and manager of Rainmaker for Contractors. I have a unique story in that I owned a waterproofing company before this, and I spent my own money. I didn't experiment with someone else's. We're an award-winning partner. I've been very involved with the Basement Health Association. I am a host of the Rainmaker for Contractors podcast. There's some great content on there. I continue to get people telling me, gosh, this is awesome. I'm learning so much. I'm learning from the people that you're interviewing. So take advantage of that. But most importantly, to you, if you're a contractor, we specialize in working with waterproofing and foundation repair folks. All right, I'm going to jump right into it. I'm going to show you 3 different examples of a Google Analytics shot. Now these, Google Analytics has over 100,000 points of data. I'm really only zeroing in on the source of traffic. It's a very important KPI, so to speak, to look at. It's like, where are your web visitors coming from before they're reaching your business and your website and making those phone calls and scheduling those appointments with you. I want to say something about the 3 slides. Here they are, 1, 2, 3. I just picked 3. I didn't look at any more than these 3. I think they'd all say the same thing. I didn't look at 10 and try to find, or 20 and try to find the best data. Here's just the first 3 that I saw. The second thing I would say is all 3 spend a generous amount of money on Google Ads. And the third thing I would say is 2 are from the Midwest and 1 is from the East Coast. So different parts of the United States, and the data is all the same. So on the left side is the source of traffic, and organic search is going to be first. And this is a 30-day period for each of these. And then paid search is going to be second. Now, if you look at the average time on site or average session duration, it's the 3rd column over. What also you'll find is that on organic search, they always tend to spend more time on the website, which I find very interesting. So for this first example, in a 30-day period for this one, 610 visitors came from organic search. So what did the owner of this company pay for that traffic? Nothing. All free. Now, for paid search, what did they pay for the 342 visits, second row? Let's say Google Ads is charging $10 a click. I think that's pretty conservative. There's $3,400 right there. And then you have direct and so on. So that's the first example. Let's look at the second one. 30-day period, different customer, different parts of the United States, 479 visitors. Time on site, again, is higher, 1 minute and 3 seconds. All free traffic. Paid search, 295. So it's easily $3,000 right there. Last one's my favorite one. Different part of the United States, same exact result. Organic search, 30-day period, 815 visitors. Paid search, 379. I'm being very conservative, saying $10 a click. At this time of the year in the basement waterproofing space, boy, we've seen some crazy numbers just for the keyword, the money word, basement waterproofing. We've seen $30, $40, $50 a click, because this is the time of the year that contractors are waiting to break out of the winter lull, and they're really willing to spend a lot of money to fight to get those jobs back into the backlog. But even if at $10 a click, you're looking at 4,000. So the reason why I like this the most is because you could add the 4 under organic search, add all those up, and organic search is more than all those combined. So we really can't deny that there's a massive amount of traffic that's coming in here. So if we're to be critical thinkers, this is where I go. I'm like, okay, cool, you made your point. Can you tell me more specifically, when Google uses the phrase organic search right here, what traffic is that made up of? All right, so I want to tell you there's 3 main spots when Google says on their Google Analytics platform, this is an organic search traffic source. The first one is the map section. We've all seen the map pop up and 3 listings below. Now, I know several of you that are on, and I know you've been around long enough to know that there used to be something called a 7-pack. Now it's a 3-pack. Experts call it the local pack. Now, why would Google move from 7-pack to 3-pack? Because they're squeezing that free traffic and they're wanting you to pay them more money for Google Ads. Just make a mental note, because everything's more about paying Google more money. All right, so this is section number 1 under the 3-pack. Section number 2 is when you, at the bottom of that 3-pack, when it says view all, they change those words. Sometimes it will say see more or whatever. And when you click that, you get into what's called a local finder, big map section, and all your competitors are listed on the left. That's the second section. If you get a lead from this area, that Google Analytics would say that's an organic search. And then the third section is on the very bottom, after Google Ads, after the 3-pack, and kind of towards the bottom in our space, we see companies like Bob Vila, Home Depot, Better Business Bureau, Yelp, Angie, Home Advisor, all those. Those are kind of normally towards the bottom. Google typically will show a couple of local waterproofers in that section. All right, so those are the 3. Make a mental note because we're going to keep referring back to these. So the map section and the 3-pack, you click more, you get the organic, the map as well. That's number 2, and then number 3 in the very bottom. So those make up organic search. So conclusion, massive web traffic from these 3 sources. Now let's figure out what we could do to kind of get into that space more and try to influence those. Before we do that though, I want to review the rest of this. I'm going to kind of unpack this survey. So in my space, there's 2 big companies. One is WhiteSpark and the other one is local SEO. And us agencies, I'm in this expensive marketing club. There's 300 other agencies. There's probably half of them service home providers. Some do doctors and lawyers and so on. Like all of us subscribe to either WhiteSpark or Bright Local or both. So every year WhiteSpark will do a survey, and they survey people like this who are the top experts supposedly in local SEO. People who have enough time on their hands to publish articles. Maybe they're missing clients, I don't know. But actually these people I do highly respect. I've hired some of them to review some of the things that we do to try to get us better. I followed them, I've heard some of them speak at conferences. And what WhiteSpark does is they collect the information and they put it into ranking factors. And that's what we're going to cover. When I owned my basement waterproofing company, sales reps would go into homes and they would educate homeowners on the consequences of moisture. We always use articles from the Mayo Clinic, American Lung Association, and CDC before it got very controversial. And why would we use the third-party article? It's because it's a kind of a respected third-party source. That way you don't have to listen to the sales rep pitch you as much as like, hey, what's a source that we could all agree upon? And here's what I have from WhiteSpark. So remember, 3 different sources on what organic search is made up of. So on the left side, we have 2021 local pack finder ranking factors. That accounts for number 1 and number 2. So quick review, number 1 and 2 sources of the organic search, that's the 3-pack and the maps. And then you click see more, and then you get the big map and all your competitors on the left. That's where we're going to start. We're going to look at those. What you see on the right makes up that section on the very bottom of a search. Okay. So wow, 36% GMB. I am going to unpack that a little bit. Like 36% is, that's over 1/3 of it. So I think I have, I need to say a few things about Google My Business. So if you were to do a search for your company without the .com, what you're going to see on the right-hand side is you're going to see what's called a knowledge card. And that's going to be half of the right page on your monitor is going to be a listing of your company. That's what's called your Google My Business, now called your Google Business Profile. It's got your name, your address, your information. It's got reviews. You might have a question and answer area. You might have Google Post on the bottom if you're playing the game right. There's a few other things as well. So having a complete profile, getting a lot of reviews, putting Google Post in that section, these are all things that are going to drive your ranking. Reviews, 17%. Gosh, if there's anything that you take out of this webinar, it's reviews. You are in total influence of where you rank based on reviews. This other stuff, sometimes you might have to hire an agency to do it. Some of these things you could do yourself. Whether you're our client or not, you should be aware of these things that are going on so that you know that someone's working on your behalf to drive your ranking up. All right, so I'm going to unpack some of these things. So how has local SEO Google algorithm changed over the years? Here's the major ones. that have changed. So Google My Business. Yeah. All right. I'm going to actually jump ahead. Google My Business. This is how this same survey, this is how Google My Business has influenced your ranking. So back in 2013, 20%, but now in 2021, 36% of your ranking relates to what your Google My Business page is. Big secret, maybe not, I don't know. But if it were up to Google, you wouldn't have a website. Google would love to just have you go to these Google business profiles and look at customers and never click to the website. Why would Google want to do that? Because they want to sell more advertising. They want you to stay on their platform. So why is Google My Business a more important ranking factor? And why do you now see things like you can, in addition to question and answer, you can now book appointments through Google or do messaging and chat right inside the Google My Business platform. I think what you're going to see in the future is you're going to see more and more things go inside your Google business profile for you to engage the customer so that Google doesn't have to send someone to the website to get more information. So that's pretty big. Yeah. All right, so let me jump back up. Reviews, you see an upward trend. Reviews are becoming more and more important. The other one that I would like to point out is citations. This is an area, if I could just give you a quick tip, and that is when you're being pitched by internet marketing companies and they look at your citations and they say like, oh, this is all messed up. Gee, you must have moved. You must have had a different address. You must have used a different phone number. Someone who did call tracking, they didn't put your numbers in right. I see that as kind of a low, I don't know, it's kind of cheap because the citations, it's undeniable that they play less of a role. Like right now, they're about 6 or 7% of your local ranking, but it creates a good visual. And when an owner sees that, they're like, I mean, they can't deny it. They're like, wow, this is really messed up. Like when we would onboard clients, I've been doing this for 12 years. Gosh, for the last like 8 years, we would spend a lot of time on citations, untangling stuff, and probably 80% of the clients that we took on, they just had like a wreck of citations. We still untangle those, but there's so many other areas that are going to influence someone's rankings. They're never going to be 100%. I've not actually ever seen anyone have a profile better than 90% with citations. Some of them are really difficult. You're endlessly emailing the people, and everyone's got a different way to undo it. And some of them are like out of business. And so just be mindful of citations. Don't get overly excited if someone ever says like, oh, our citations are messed up. Yeah, so those are the ones that I want to point out. The biggest change, Google My Business continues to be a huge player. Citations is lower, personalization is lower, reviews are up. All right. So yeah, this is a GMB is on the rise. I explained why Google wants everyone to stay on their platforms. It's all about Google making more money, right? All right, decline of citations. I've shown you that. It's down to 7%. Actually, I think it might be 6%. This is last year's slide. Here's some noteworthy items here. So internal linking. What the heck is an internal link? For example, when we post a blog on someone's website, we're always going to have 2 internal links and 2 external links. Internal links, when it's when that word is highlighted and you click it and it takes you to another page, that's a link. All right. If it takes you to another page on that same website, that's considered an internal link. If you click that link and it takes you, say, for example, to Wikipedia, some outside source, now that's an external link. So this is saying, hey, internal links are becoming more and more important. Now that's an area that you can influence. You could post blogs all day long on your website and you could link them to different pages. And when you write content for your pages, you could put a keyword in there and highlight it. And when you click it, it takes you to another page. You can do that all day. And that's becoming more important. Proper placement on the map pin. It doesn't surprise me that if your map pin is kind of messed up, it's like 3 blocks down the street, that is going to influence your ranking. It's going to work against you because Google wants people to have a positive experience on their platform. They want the data to be clean, and they want to help the users. If it's good for the user, it's good for the search engines. That's a good line for SEO. Here's a new one to me, the age of a Google My Business listing. So we all know that when your domain name and website is older, Google gives that a little bit of an edge ranking factor. Now we're seeing that in the Google My Business listing. Keywords on the landing page. And this one a little bit surprises me. So slightly nerdy, but you could stay with me. You could follow this. First of all, it says keywords and anchor text of inbound links to a domain. Inbound link, let me just explain that again. Let's say a celebrity walks into a room, there's 100 other people, and everyone looks like, wow, look who's here. The celebrity is here. Picture all these eyes looking at the celebrity. That's kind of like incoming eyeballs. So, wow, that person must be important. So when Google has a website out there and there's all these links pointing to that website, Google says, wow, that's important. Now, those links need to be industry relevant, and the more important they are, the more credit Google will give. What is an anchor text? An anchor text is, with that keyword that you click and it's highlighted in blue, and it's going to take you somewhere else. Wherever that phrase is, that's considered an anchor text. Now, for people that are a little bit nerdy and do SEO, they pay attention to those details because you don't want all the anchor text to say like home page or something like that, or the domain name. You want the anchor text to have variety, and you want the important keywords in there. This is just saying that is becoming less important. All right, what are the factors that contribute to ranking for local organic? Remember what the local organic section is? It's on the very bottom of the page. There's 3 different ways that Google is counting as traffic sources. And so this is the 3rd way. This is way in the bottom. And there's 2 big factors here. One is considered on page, and the other is considered links. So what is on page? On page is all the content on the page that you see. Is it good, helpful, quality, relevant information for the searcher? That's largely on page. It also has to do with things like navigation and usability, and is it easy to use? Is the display right? More and more now, Google wants, like we find these errors sometimes, they want, even on mobile traffic, which is probably 50% of your traffic, they want spacing. So they don't want people to have a fat finger experience where they hit something and then it hits a different word and it goes somewhere else. All those little things are considered on page. And then links, I was explaining that's like incoming, primarily incoming links coming to a website. That's going to build authority into your website. Again, it has to be industry related, and it has to be authoritative. It's helpful to be authoritative. I want to slip something in here, which you can control. And if you're working with us, please tell us. If you're working with another agency, please tell them. But we're talking local SEO here. So if you're involved in a charity, if you're involved in donations, if you sponsor a softball team, anything like that, if you can get a link from their website to yours, a local link, those are really great and valuable. If you can't, that's okay too. If you can get a mention is just like, hey, ABC Waterproofing sponsors this or donated this or whatever it is. Even to get a mention on that, how the Google algorithm works, they're going to give you credit for that. So let us know. Be mindful of that. If you're donating, bringing gifts to people, see if you can get a mention. I know it kind of sounds cheesy. You're like, I'm not doing it to get like SEO ranking, but it's pretty common to ask for some kind of a credit. All right. Which individual factors have the biggest impact on local pack 1 and the local finder 2? I keep mentioning these 3 sources. This is 1 and 2. So this is that 3-pack and the map and the section after you click see more. I'm not going to go through all these, but here's the list. Your primary Google My Business category. So Google allows you to have 1 primary and 9 secondary categories, and there's quite a few categories. This is an area that I often find people don't have figured out. I would say 25% of the time, they have the wrong primary category. And then usually they don't have the subcategories that they should have. So it's important to kind of consider your other services and see if Google has a category for that. And I will give you a tool in a second here. All right. Let's go keywords in the, this is a good one. Keywords in the business title. All right, this is kind of gets pretty fun here for me. Talked about that one, the primary category and subcategories. Remember, 1 primary, 9 subcategories. Okay, here's the tool. If you want to spy on your competitors to see what categories they're using, if you go to your Chrome extensions, it's a free tool. It's called GMB Spy. I've been using it for years. It's on, I'll probably have 10 Chrome extensions. I do anyway. And if you put that on, and how it works is your maps, the map section needs to show up here. I was like, someone gave it to me. I'm like, this doesn't work. Is it bogus or not? It's like, no, wait a minute. Your map has to be opened up here. So get the customer's map section opened up and then click the extension. The first one that you see listed on here, it says waterproofing company. That's going to be the primary. And then the secondaries are going to be concrete contractor and then contractor. So that's a fun tool just to kind of check out to see what your competitors are doing. All right, and the number 2 ranking factor is keywords in the business title. So what I have here on the screen is a highly keyword stuffed Google My Business company. So Houston site acquisition. I mean, every keyword that's relevant to their industry, they stuffed it in the title and they're saying, this is the name of our company. Well, we know that that's not the name of their company, but they know that it's a ranking factor. So they're keyword stuffing. So if you're in the basement waterproofing space, it is to your advantage to have, if your company name, for example, is like ABC Foundation Repair, you'd be better off with ABC Basement Waterproofing because it's more of a money word, so to speak. I would not recommend just changing it in there because it's going to change a lot of other things. In some cases, it may make sense to officially create a DBA name with your government, which wouldn't take long, and make it official. And so you could be ABC Foundations or something, DBA, ABC Basement Waterproofing. Why? Because it's the number 2 most important factor in ranking. Something to consider. The best case scenarios are, here's a scenario that comes up quite often. And I think it's going to lead me to the next one. Yep, beautiful. So where you're at in relation to where the searcher is searching matters. So a lot of times, you're almost always going to rank number 1 in your town. Even if you have a bad listing, you often will rank number 1. Now the exception is if you have competitors. So if you sell coffee in New York City, you're not going to be ranking number 1. There's only one company that's going to be ranking number 1. It's just really hard when there's a lot of competitors. If you're a dry cleaners, it's just like really, really hard. If you're in the foundation repair basement waterproofing space, there's not as many people around. It depends what's going on in your area. We did have a client a few months ago. They called and they said, hey, why are we not in the top 3 in the local pack? And we counted 26 competitors between where their office was and where the center of the town was that they wanted to rank. So it's very difficult to try to rank in the top 3 if you're in that space. Now, they no doubt got way cheaper rents being, way far away from the city. In some cases, it sometimes makes sense to have a legitimate second office in that second city. If you're considering that, feel free to reach out to me, whether you're a client or not. I can kick that around with you. I would recommend to be legitimate. We've had Google want to verify it with video camera, meaning the person that set up the second office has to be walking in, and they're like on a live Zoom thing, and Google's watching. They have to approach the building. There has to be a sign on the door. There has to be customers, and they want customers to be able to go to that location. And you don't want to have like a little black dot by your name with Google. Google's just way too powerful. And it's their algorithm that tags people. It's not like a person going like, hey, I think they're messing around. Like Google writes these computer programs, and if the program like identifies something shady, I've been doing this too long. I would not recommend what we call kind of getting into black hat kind of stuff. All right. So I kind of covered, typically you're going to rank number one in the town that you live in. And I want to point something out. As you drive around town in the Google Maps section, you are going to rank. I'm coming up with something super exciting. This is so cool. But if you are driving around town, we've all been like, we're hungry and we're like, all right, McDonald's. And we're driving down the street and we're hoping that one's going to be on the left or the right. And you're like, cool, one is like a mile away. It's, oh, shoot, it's the other way around. So they kind of change as you drive around. And that's just how Google Maps works. They want that local proximity as a good ranking factor. So here's my example. This is Long Island, New York. I'm told that the highest per square mile population exists here. It's the most crowded area of the United States. And we have this really cool tool that tells us where someone ranks. They don't have to be our client. We get to just kind of do this spying on anybody, where they rank on the Google Maps section, depending on where they're at. So we have 9 dots across, 9 dots down on the left. In the center, I'd put money on it. Where you see those green dots, where there's ones, somewhere in there is a company. And the further away that you move, the harder it is to rank. So that's a really cool tool to kind of, for us to evaluate how we're doing, what area do we need to improve on, and so on. I'm throwing a lot of information out at you. I want to give you like let's step back and let's see how powerful this stuff is. I picked a waterproofer in the same area, and I intentionally picked a bad one because I wanted to show you a bad Google My Business or Google Business Profile ranking, what it would look like. And I knew that if I ran this Google My Business Profile in our tool, it would look horrible. Why? Because I think they only had one review and it was bad. They had no photos, very inaccurate, or just not much information on their Google My Business Profile. And in their hometown, they're ranking 19th. So, I mean, how many like free leads do you think they're going to get through organic? Probably not a ton. Now, on the other hand, this is one of our customers I'm kind of showing off. Imagine if you rank number one on the Google Maps section, regardless of where you're at, or number 2 or number 3, quite honestly, because you're going to be in that 3-pack or in the top 3 on this one because it's Google Maps. So if you compare, how much free traffic are you going to get on this one versus this one? And what's the difference? Yes, it's a Google My Business Profile, but the website's got authority, it's got links, it's got content, you have a lot of reviews. All those factors influence your ranking. So that for us is a lot of fun, that our work can influence the ranking factor of our clients and drive free traffic. So that's a beautiful thing. All right, a physical address in the city. I kind of shared that one with you, and that we had a client saying like, hey, how come, our office is 25 miles from the center of the city and we're not ranking in the 3-pack. In those scenarios, you might want to open up a second office and make it legit. It's just, I don't care how good the agency is, it's going to be very difficult to rank when you're that far away and there's that many competitors in between you. Additional like subcategories of your Google My Business, that's important. That's where I think, unless you're working with an agency, that's where that GMB Spy Chrome extension can be helpful, because you could poke around, 10 different companies pretty quickly and look at all the different categories that Google offers. Or you can log into your Google business profile and look at the categories and do searches for different things of your services. So that's going to bring in some extra traffic as well. I'm just going to cover 3 more here. All right, here it is again. Now this is your Google rating. So everyone has a Google rating on reviews. 4.4, 4.8, some have 5.0. What your rating is matters. Now I'm going to make a little bit of an insight here. Google has a patent that can evaluate the sentiment of the rating. So they're able to read the words and they're able to make a judgment as to how amazing the review is or just how average it is. They did a nice job. I'm happy. I'm a satisfied customer, or just how negative it is or whatever it is. They can measure the sentiment, and they're not only going off of a rating, but they're going off of the sentiment of the rating. I want to give 2 more tips on reviews. I know that finally people are really seeing the business owners are seeing the importance of reviews, and they're kind of finally creating systems in our space. There's someone, asking for a review at the end of a job in person where you're going to get the most, and they train the foreman, they're creating company cultures, they're acknowledging reviews, they're even incentivizing employees. I had one contractor tell me like, oh, they're not even getting paid if they don't get a review. It's a little bit extreme, but as you're kind of asking for reviews, there's 2 keywords that will help you in your ranking. One of them is if you can have the homeowner mention the service that they got from you. In our space, it's basement waterproofing or whatever service you're doing. Having that keyword of your service in the review is helpful to you. And the second keyword in that review that the customer types would be the city that they live in. So the city, again, is like I mentioned, it's like, Google's saying, wow, they do a lot of business in the city. More power to you, even if you can get that one review on the specific city page from that town. So those are kind of some insights on reviews. Completeness of your Google business profile listing. Good to visit that, good to look at the insights, and always good to see, hey, is Google giving us any other space to fill out, to put information about our company. Number 8, I think this is the last one I'm going to cover for this one, the quality and authority of inbound links. So I talked about an inbound link. It's when a website points to your website. So the quality, is it related to the industry? Is it helpful, good content? And then authority, that is it like a big website that's pointing to you? One example, if you can get a university pointing to your website because your content is so good, that's huge. Wikipedia, very difficult. If you get out there, it'll probably be taken down. In our space, boy, if you can get the Bob Vilas or the Home Depot is pointing. I mean, here is a really good one. Just being listed with Angie and having them point to your website, that's a really good link. So is like the Basement Health Association. And there's 85 other factors. Whenever I throw out a ranking factor, I sometimes say, don't give this too much power. Like, don't think this is a deal breaker. There's not a ton of magic wands in our space. It's 1,000 little things that will help you ranking. All right. What individual factors have the biggest impact on local organic ranking? That's that bottom spot again. There's 2 big ones, quality and authority. A lot of these overlap. If you're picking it up, quality and authority of inbound links and the volume of content on your entire website. So you should be adding blogs regularly to your website. You're also going to get what's called a freshness factor. Google doesn't want websites to be stale. They want like new, fresh content. So when you add blogs, that's a good thing. Adding customer reviews is a good thing. You could add case studies. And when I throw out the word case studies, someone's like, oh, I'm never going to do that. But literally like 2 or 3 paragraphs of like, this is what the customer's issue was. This is what we did to fix it. This is how they're happy now. Like just that's all good stuff. I think I'm just going to I covered internal. Number 3 is internal links. All right, this is kind of fun. Top 20 SEO myths. I'm only going to cover a few of them. Let's see what we got. All right, so some people think if you tag the photo, I think that maybe that used to work well. So tagging photos and uploading them to your Google My Business. One thing I will say about photos, though, you should have at least 40 photos on your Google My Business listing. I was looking at someone's Google My Business listing. It was either early this week or late last week. And in a 30-day period, ready for this? They had 44,000 views of their photos. So people are definitely hanging out on your Google My Business profile. It's important to add photos, but they don't have to be tagged. When you set up your Google My Business profile, there's a spot for description and products and services. Some people think if I have the right keywords and if I keyword stuff that area, it's going to, don't do that. It doesn't matter. You're not going to get penalized, but it's not going to do anything for you. There is a messaging enabled feature inside your Google Business now. So if a customer wants to do a shout out and say, hey, I have a question for you, whether you have that on or not, it's not going to help your ranking factor. So there's a lot of different myths and so on. Conversion factors to me are just like not everything, but next to everything. No one wants website visitors as much as they want leads, and they really don't want leads. They want booked leads. They want appointments. So these are the things that convert into booked appointments. Guess what's number one? Your Google rating. It's like so important. So is it a 4.0? I mean, all right, let me just ask a question. If you were looking for a company, you didn't know who to look for and you didn't get any referrals, you're obviously going to go to Google, you're going to type in, you're going to look at reviews. If someone's got like a 4.0 rating and two other companies have like a 4.7, if you do the math on that, the person with a 4.0 rating, you're kind of going, all right, I have an 80% chance of having a successful outcome if I pay this person money. If there's two competitors and they're at 4.7, what is that? 94% chance that you're going to have a successful outcome. I think everyone would go for the two that have 4.7. So that stuff matters. Positive sentiment of the review, that's important. Are they like, I'm satisfied customer, or like they're amazing and they mentioned the person that they dealt with and they went above and beyond? That's what you're looking for. And I really like the accountability that Google gives, because good companies that really care about the customers, they're kind of coming to the top, they're surfacing, they're getting credit. So that's a beautiful thing. Completeness of your GMB listing, quality of native Google reviews with text, recency reviews. Some people, some contractors I know, they'll get a bunch of reviews, but then they think, oh, I'm good. I'm fine. There's like 40 of them there. I'm good. Recency matters. People want to know what happened in the last 30 days. Because if you got something a year ago or 6 months ago, that crew might not even be with you. They want to know how your company's doing now. And then away we go, proximity. I've talked about that. I do like the next one though, presence of owners' responses to most reviews. We do encourage all of you to respond to all of your reviews all the time, good or bad. If it's bad, take responsibility, don't get defensive, reach out to the customer, go above and beyond, over deliver, and then explain in the review what you changed, what you're going to change in the system. If it's good, try to avoid like it was a pleasure doing business with you. Thank you. Try to personalize it, try to change it up, and try to connect. If you could mention something in the relationship, maybe their dog's really cute, love your dog, or maybe they have some special day coming up. Hope you had a good birthday, whatever it is, try to be personal in those reviews and change those up. I think that really says a lot. All right, negative ranking factors, incorrect business category. I mentioned that one. Sometimes in our space, people have contractor down instead of waterproofing contractor. That matters. A hacked website or the presence of malware gosh, in today's world, hey, if you know, if people can hack websites in the White House and the FBI, basement waterproofing websites can get hacked. In today's world, people write and by the way, there's not some like hacker out there trying to go after your website. If your site ever gets hacked, they're writing programs and they're sending bots out into the internet world, and they're looking for gaps. Like maybe, gosh, we had a situation. We had a plugin added to a website. It was a good, solid plugin. It was highly effective. 2 years went by, and the company sold that company to someone else. That other company used that plugin to hack websites. So, then you have to get the site unhacked, which isn't always fun. Reports of violations on your Google My Business. So Google doesn't monitor really much what is happening with the Google My Business platform. And so people think, oh, cool, Google doesn't care. Well, agencies like us care, and your competitors care. And so if they think you're doing something shady, then they report you. And when Google gets reports, that's when they start going after people. They rely on other people to do it. All right, I'm not going to go through all of them. It gives you an idea. I'm covering the top ones. So which individual factors have no impact whatsoever on ranking? Yeah, all right. Actually, I did cover some of these, so I'm going to skip that one. All right, conclusion is there's massive amounts of web traffic and leads that are coming through local SEO, and it'd be great if you could take advantage of it. I mean, it's got the best return on investment you could possibly imagine. Free is pretty good. For me, at the end of every month, quarter, and year, when I owned my waterproofing company, I had to analyze. We had a lead source report, and so I knew how many leads came in, how many booked, how many actually we did demos for, how many we closed. There's a gross and net closing percentage. There's rejects and cancels, and then you have a percentage of cost per lead. And you're always wanting to spend more money on the leads that are have the lowest percentage of cost, and less money on the ones that are too expensive. This is a great lead source. It's high quality, people trust it, and you could tell by time on site. And if I were to go, if I were to ask 100 businesses, hey, what's your number one lead source? Everyone's going to say the internet. So reviews, photos, content, blogging, links, all those things, good working websites that navigate well, all those things matter for local rankings. So if anyone, I think we have a lot of customers on our webinar today. If you want a free strategy session, you're welcome to have it. But if anyone's not one of our clients and you would like a free strategy session, we pay a fortune on more tools than I want to admit, and we're able to gather data very quickly and analyze what's going on, what your competition is, what your opportunities are, where your weaknesses are, where your greatest strengths are, and so on. And I'm happy to do a strategy session with you and kind of explain what we see with our tools.